Welcome to Loblaw Blah Blah Blah. I'm your host, David Robert Loblaw. My guest today is Trish Elliott, Dr. Patricia W. Elliott, Trish Jedlick, Patricia Jedlick. Why so many names?
I like it that way. It's useful, you know. You can be anonymous sometimes. Patricia Jedlick is my best anonymous name. So,
why didn't you go with Pat Jedlick? That seems like a great journalist name.
Pat Jedlick, that sounds like a great name. I don't know. I have no idea.
Do you want to change it now?
It's too late. It's
is it?
Late. Once you kind of got a byline, you got a byline, and so it goes.
But you did change your name slightly. You've now put in a W in it as it for your middle name.
Yeah, I did that a few years ago because there are so many. Well, I guess since the advent of the internet, right? Since Google, my name is so common, and people were getting me mixed up. And there's so many Patricia Elliott's. Use W just to distinguish with my old name, and also, but it's in my Auntie Winnie's. I was named Winifred, my middle name.
Yep.
For my Auntie Winnie, and I always wanted it to be my actual name.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, how cool! Like Winnie, Win, Fred, Freddie. Like that would be the coolest name.
So when you were growing up in Estevan, were you Trish or Patty or anything else?
I was Trish, but they spelled it Trice.
Say that again.
They spelled it Trice. Like like all my old school records, everything is Trice, but it was pronounced Trish. And I was always a Trish because my older sister named me. My mom, she was tired when she got to the fourth kid. It's like, you name the kid. And my older sister wanted Patty. And so my mom didn't like Patty, but she said, we'll call her Patricia and we'll call her Trish will be the compromise. So I became Trish, but I don't think they kind of knew how to spell it. So then it was Trice. And like my brother still like spells it Trice. When I get my Christmas card, it says,
oh, really?
Trice. Yeah.
And it's on your school records.
Yeah. Trice.
Until what age?
I think I actually had to leave home before I started like just.
Yeah. Estevan's only 10 miles from the American border. It must have been kind of strange living in a border town. No,
it was all right. You know, the border was not like what it is now. You know, like last time I went through that border, I could not believe it. Like it's like, oh my God, you know, there's like searchlights and
really.
Oh yeah, it's huge. But I mean, it used to be just a little kind of shack by the roadside when I was growing up. And then, you know, as kids, we'd have to like any clothes we bought, we'd have to wear it back across the line. So we didn't have to do duty on everything. So we'd all have like 10 shirts on.
So where'd your dad hide his booze?
Sometimes, like, because we had a station wagon, they'd get us to like sleep in the back of the station wagon, all on top of like where the wheel thing is.
Yeah.
So yes,
excellent.
I learned smuggling at an early age. But yeah, I love borders. I really do. And now that I think of it, like my favorite places are borderlands. You know, they're always kind of like remote and craggy. And
you aren't nervous
at borders?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of the fun sometimes. Yeah, I really like when I'm traveling. I love being around borders. They're fascinating. People going, and they're always in the most foreboding landscape, right? Because they're usually like mountain borders and stuff like that. So
with a
like
tiny
borders.
little booth sometimes with one little person on there, and it's pretty bizarre. But I always thought, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say they like borders, because everyone gets scared of borders. But I guess you think about it, they are interesting, even if you are scared.
Yeah. And I've had a few scary border crossings, that's for sure. Sneaking into Burma was one of them.
Yeah, well, everyone's done that. I mean,
Yeah.
back to Estevan. I assume your parents worked in the coal mine?
No, they did not. Not everybody worked in the coal mine.
Really?
No, but usually everyone was kind of ancillary to the coal industry. Yeah, it's a coal town. There's
Yeah.
like coal dust everywhere. There's, like our recreation was the spill piles, which are like, I know that sounds horrible.
Yeah.
It's like when they do the strip mining, there's these like big hills that are made and water collects between them. So
Yeah.
that was like skating rinks for us in the winter, and like lovely little, places you could go canoeing. And that was like our recreation was, let's go to the spill piles.
And it was all black with
Wonderful.
coal dust?
Well, yeah, you could always see like this, the coal seams everywhere and the
Really?
stuff. And yeah, like Boundary Dam, it had this, the beach was like, lots of coal dust and beach tar, and you could see the big seam of coal. And
One more question about Estevan. The Estevan water tower has the name of the city in quotation marks. Why?
uh, I don't know. That's a good one because I'm from Estevan.
I thought that was hilarious, and I thought it was just a one-off thing. So I did a Google image search. It's everywhere. It's the major, huge water tower. It's got, quotation marks. That's hilarious.
You know what? I looked at that water tower every day of my life growing up, and I didn't even notice that. So you're a keen observer.
Well, maybe they put it on after you left.
I doubt it. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe when it became Estevan.
I guess when it, that's so stupid. You've obviously traveled so many different places. There's too many countries to mention. Aside from America, what was the first country you went to?
Aside from America, what was the first country I went to? Oh, well, I guess England.
Oh. And how old were you?
23. It was like my first time on an airplane over the ocean. And I was on my way to one of those overlands to Asia and stopped in London for like 3 nights or something to get some visa stuff straightened out. And all I saw was the Iranian embassy. That's my memory of London, and I've never been back.
Okay. All of us have the preconceived ideas of various countries before we go to them. What country did you experience that was completely opposite of your expectations, good or bad?
Oh, Bulgaria.
In a good way?
In a good way. Driving through Bulgaria, I realized, oh my God, like we've been surpassed by every country in the world now. I mean, like you think Bulgaria is going to be, in my mind, I thought it was going to be a little bleak.
Yeah.
But they've got like really good highways and opera houses and beautiful mountains.
Wow.
So that's when I was thinking, oh my God, like Bulgaria is quite a few steps up from Saskatchewan. It's like Bosnia, that blew me away. That is beautiful. And it going like down, we weren't even sure where we are. We got a bit lost. We had this rental car and went through this pass we were on our way to Albania. And yeah, the scenery was just breathtaking, like world-class scenery.
Like mountainous?
Yeah. Yeah, just on that border with Albania. That was pretty cool. So yeah, I've been blown away by a lot of places, by most places. I mean, I love anywhere I go.
Have you ever had your passport lost or stolen?
I have, yes.
Many times?
As you well know. No, only once.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, the
You,
beach, Thailand beach,
you were
right?
with,
Is
that's
that
the
the only
only,
time?
the only time,
Really?
really.
All your travels, that's amazing. So you've traveled a lot, but you've only lived in two countries, right? China and Thailand?
Yes, yeah,
Okay. And how long did you live in China in Zhuzhou?
a year.
Would you say a year?
Yeah,
And you moved to Bangkok because you were working on at the Bangkok Post?
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
And
yeah.
how long did you
We were
live
in
there?
a year again. So, not extended period. I went back a lot though, because I kept freelancing and working there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like a trip to Thailand. I was reading the Bangkok Post and said, I'd like to write for this paper someday. It's like a pretty good paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it happened.
And did you just applied or how did that work?
I applied for a Young Canadian Researchers Award, which the IDRC used to hand out, which I think they still do things like that. Yeah. And I just pitched it as a journalism experience for a Canadian.
Yeah.
They funded it. I called the Bangkok Post and said, would you like a reporter to come and work for you? I'm funded by an outside agency. And they were like, sure.
Wow, that should be so exciting.
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the first day I went to the office just to check in when I arrived, and they were needing someone to go to a press conference. I wasn't supposed to start work yet. And they're like, hey, well, can you go cover this press conference? So I started working right away. And it was good. I got a front page story out of that press conference.
On your first
And
day.
the US Embassy had to issue an apology. So it
What
was
was the
just,
topic?
it had to do with, it was just a trade briefing from the US Trade Minister.
Yeah.
But he mentioned this thing, and he said it very subtly, along the lines of, if you don't get control over the contraband cigarettes, we're gonna, or no, it was not the contraband cigarettes. He says they were trying to get to sell American cigarettes in Thailand, which at the time was verboten.
Ah.
At that time they weren't. So they were trying to break open that market, and he was like subtly threatening that they
Uh-oh.
would subsidize American rice if they couldn't get their cigarettes into the market.
Ah.
I know, it was so slimy. So I like went with that part of the briefing, and yeah. And then they also made some disparaging remark about Thailand's control of illicit drugs, which didn't go over well. So yeah, that was a good first day of work.
That's a fantastic first day of work. I mean, you started international incident on your first day. That's great. So we're gonna finish here with the lightning round. So just say the first answer that pops in your head.
Okay.
If you were forced to leave
I'm
Canada
not a
forever,
lightning.
where would you live?
Thailand.
If you're on death row and offered anything for your last meal, what is it?
Hawkins cheesies. I realize that's not a meal, but
It's it's there. Have you ever flown first class?
never. I've never been bumped up. And
With all your travels?
never. It's Don got bumped up once when he went with Bill Jack to the States. They got bumped up. It's never happened to me. And I kind of think it shouldn't, because then how could you ever go back to coach?
Oh,
Right? Like, it would be hard.
that's
So maybe it's best not to know.
that's true. And finally, when's your memoir coming out?
Never.
Really?
Yeah. Because I have no memory. How would I
Oh,
write a memoir?
but do you have lots of scraps of notes and notepads and little journals and that type of stuff?
I have never thrown out a notepad in my life. I have stacks and stacks of notepads, like like these things, these steno pads.
That's
whatever.
great.
But they're just like my scrawly, like when I'm doing interviews and notes to myself, like no one would ever decipher my notepads.
No, but you can. That's a nice sort of guideline to write your memoir. You guys, you and Dawn have the most fascinating lives with all your travels and all that. That's you got to start writing this stuff down.
I don't know about that. It sounds like work.
Can't you force one of your journalism students to do it for you? You just sit there in your big office and your lazy boy and just talk, and they'll just write it in.
As told by
Yeah.
As told by Dr. Trish Elliott.